Talk Radio Network.
Thank you for providing the programming that you are.
The voice of freedom.
All right, we're at that magic 90-minute mark. It's always hard to believe when we get 90 minutes into the show, where does the time go? Well, you know, on Warrior Wednesday, we like to talk about those who serve, and there's just a million different ways that people can effectively serve our community. One of those is by serving on school boards. And I'm not just saying that because Jane and
Adriana Kuhn.
I didn't know if you said it the fancy way, Adriana.
Yeah.
Adriana. Anyway, I'm not just saying that because Jane and Adriana are in studio with me. This is something that you've heard me say a million times. It starts at the school boards. You know, I remember every time I talk about school boards, every time I visit with a school board member or a school board candidate, I remember 30 years ago. Jane, you've heard me talk about this before. Yes. Probably more than 30 years ago, maybe 35 years ago. I don't remember exactly. But it's when I very first really got involved in the Patriot movement, when I really first got involved in conservative politics. And I remember there was a speaker at a convention I went to that said, look, I mean, he was like crying out to all of us in the audience. And he said, look, you people spend too much time worrying about Congress and the governor and blah. He said, we have failed because we haven't put our concentration on school boards. School board members are the most important elected official in this country. Keep in mind, this was 35 years ago that this guy was saying this. And I will admit, you know, I was a very young man at the time because I'm not very old now.
Weren't we all?
35 years ago would have made me super young. But anyway, I was sitting there as a young man. I am embarrassed to admit this now. But as I sat there and listened to him, I was like, come on. School boards, come on. Yeah, right?
Right.
But now, fast forward the tape 35 years, my goodness, good Lord in heaven, we have allowed, we the people, have allowed our public school system to become trash. I mean, I've often said that I fear it is too far gone to ever be effectively repaired. And because of that, I love people that will serve on school boards and say, no, it's not too late. We can still right this ship. There's still stuff that we can do. And, you know, every baby that we pull out of a burning building is effort well spent. Everything that we can do to try against all odds to fix this stupid government school system that just... Anyway, enough of my soapbox. Jane, catch us up on what's happening at Francis Howell School District.
First, thank you so much, Brian, for allowing us to be here and to give you an update and everybody listening an update on what we've accomplished just recently. One of them was a really big one, and we absolutely, positively took all of the CRT out of the school districts and made it impossible for it to be reintroduced.
Jane, say that again, because that's something that we should be having a party over. It's worth saying again.
We took the standards from the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is CRT, out of our schools and made it impossible for them to reintroduce it.
That is so awesome.
We were rather proud of that. So that was one thing that we did, as if that wasn't enough of an impact. The other thing that we did was we rewrote a policy because a local director of the NEA decided that she would sunshine all of the children's personal identifying information to use it for political purposes. Unfortunately, she was able to get it at that time, but we did rewrite the policy. The problem is that now they won't ever, that will never happen again. Your child's personal information will never again be available for political purpose or for anybody that does not have a need to know. So
so, Jane, if you would, because we did talk about this the last time you were in studio, but just in case there might be people listening that either don't remember or maybe they weren't listening on that particular day, first of all, shame on them. But anyway, just in case, give us just the 30,000-foot view, because I remember when you told me about this, I was pretty upset about how this ended up being used?
It's up to the school district on how you classify or what information you include in the directory information of a student. And unfortunately, we had too many items in our directory, including name, parent's name, address, GPA, clubs they belong to, blah, blah, blah. And so we fixed all that. And
people could just get that through a sunshine request.
Yes, until it happened, we didn't know.
And in this particular case, they wanted to get it to use it for political purposes. But I began to think there are many other, even more nefarious reasons why a person might want that level of what I would consider intimate detail about a child.
Right.
So anyway, you guys squared that away.
We did, and I ran on school safety or children's safety, and that's one of the things that I'm really proud of. Another thing that we did, we saved the district $300,000 in construction bonds because we provided the oversight over the entire construction process. We tabled plans that were brought to us that exceeded the scope of the original plan, so we saved the district $300,000. There's more,
that's
Brian,
a lot of money.
But I have to come back to tell you more. But,
absolutely.
Yeah, but
so you brought us somebody today.
I did bring you somebody.
Is it someone that I should have hope in?
Oh, you definitely. She's better than I am.
No.
So
oh my.
That's
let me
not
introduce
possible.
Adriana Kuhn.
Thank you. Hi, Brian.
Well, hi. So, hey, I want to ask you a question, or let me just kind of set this up, because every single time I have ever talked to a school board candidate, or a school board member for that matter, there's a standard question that I always ask, and it goes like this. Are you willing to understand the proper role of the school board as it pertains to the superintendent? And I'm going to tell you why I'm asking you that question. When I served in the Missouri State Senate, from time to time, I would go to school board meetings because I just felt like it was the right thing to do. And what I saw over and over and over was school superintendents walking all over the school board. And it was literally like the school board answered to the superintendent, which is upside down, backwards. That is wrong, except there was this one school district. It was the Lonedell School District. Now this was probably 20, I don't know, however long ago that it was that I was in the Senate. But anyway, I went to this school board meeting, and there was a gentleman by the name of John Pursley. I'll never forget this guy. He served on the board. And the superintendent started to do some of the normal things that I had seen other superintendents do. And John frickin' Pursley shut that dude down and reminded him that the school board hires and fires him and that he is to answer to the school board, not the school board answering to him.
I've heard Jane say that, and it's very true. I really think that the school board is there to oversee the superintendent and the administration. And Brian, what I see going on in our schools today reminds me of something you were saying yesterday during the Patriot Enclave about the Freedom Caucus Assembly at the Capitol. You were saying that it is the responsibility of citizens to act. And I feel the exact same way about our school board. We as a people fund our children's education, and us citizens not only have the right, but we have the responsibility to govern education in our communities. This is why our school boards are elected by the people. And luckily, right now at Francis Howell, we currently have a strong board in place, but we must continue to elect strong, conservative, qualified individuals on our school board going forward. Otherwise,
Amen.
The same patterns will keep happening.
Well, and one of the things that concerns me sometimes is that, if there was ever a silver lining to the tyranny that was perpetrated against the American citizenry as a result of COVID, if there could ever be a silver lining, it is that American parents, and particularly moms, right? American parents were awakened to what these school districts were doing to their children. And it made more people get involved. My only concern is that so many times, something really bad will happen. We get all up in arms about it. We do something about it. And then when it appears as though, Jane and the other strong members of the board have been doing some great things at Francis Howell, it would be very easy for people to then be like, oh, okay, problem averted. Everything's fine now, and not pay as much attention.
I agree. What started for me to get involved was during 2020, when a lot of schools were not allowing in September their school to open up for in-person learning. So when that happened, I went to the first school board meeting I ever went to. Before that, my kids had been in school for multiple years, but I kept thinking, there's no reason I need to go to the meetings because our schools are great. I'm in Francis Howell. Howell is the best district in the area. But then I went to that meeting, and I had a group of moms that were all going to go. 12 of us, we had met, talked about all of this, and, we were really strong-willed. I was the only one who ever showed up to that meeting, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard because everybody wants to act, but not everybody does. And so I showed up to that meeting, and you would not believe what happened. The local NEA were screaming and yelling at me that I want them to die and that we should keep our schools closed. And I just couldn't believe it because here I wanted to keep our schools open not only for my children, but also for other children that were more disadvantaged than mine because I knew how important it was for their education to make sure they had in-person learning. And I couldn't believe the NEA that's supposed to serve our children and represent our teachers was fighting so hard against what seemed common sense and best practice for our children's education. So that got me started on this journey, but it wasn't a very good opportunity at that time for me to run for school board. Now, my youngest is a little older, so I have the time available and the opportunity to put my time and direction into the school board, and I'm ready for it. I can't wait to serve on the board, and I can't wait to represent the people in our community for what they believe.
Man, I'll tell you, Jane, I think you brought me a good one.
I think I did too.
So a couple of things that you said that I absolutely want to chime in on or agree with, and that is we the people,
Yes.
and I'm talking about me, right? We the people allowed our schools to become like this. So we the people have to understand it is our responsibility to know what these people are quote unquote teaching our kids. The next thing is, I just want to make sure that I heard you correctly on this. I think what you said is that there were 12 of you who got fired up and said, oh, we're going to the school board meeting, and then you were the only one that showed up.
And this was in 2020, so people were having a really hard time dealing with it. It was an emotional wreck for almost everyone.
And I don't say that to chastise any of the other 11 that didn't go.
Right.
I simply bring that up because it's just like every other good thing that any of us ever do. And that is, there are so many that want something to be done,
Yes.
and so few that will actually do it. And again, that's no indictment against the other 11 that didn't show up. I mean,
Right.
most of them probably had real good reasons why they didn't, whatever. But the ratio is about normal, right? 12 people get fired up. 12 people are ready to have pitchforks and torches, and then one person shows up.
Yes.
And that's kind of normal. And then I don't expect either one of you to say anything about this. I mean, you can, but I don't expect you to. I just want to say it from me, okay? When I hear the word NEA or the initials NEA, there are certain organizations, in my humble opinion, that are pure, unadulterated evil. And I believe that the NEA is absolutely evil. They are evil at their core. They don't care anything about our kids. They are evil. All right, so can you all stick around a
Yes.
little longer?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Cool.
What other quick updates might you have for us concerning Francis Howell? Anything else we need to know?
We are actually looking at and negotiating contracts for next year for the teachers. We are so blessed to have so many dedicated and talented teachers. I'm going to brag and say I don't care what the surrounding school districts say, we've got the best. and we want to reward them. They work hard, they're dedicated, and they take good care of our kids. So that's another thing that we're doing. Hopefully we'll have something to announce officially on that very soon.
Next time you visit with us, you'll have
Yes.
something. And I just want to say very quickly that, when I speak as poorly as I do about the American government school system, it is not an indictment against the teachers. So many of the classroom teachers are literally awesome,
Right.
but they are being restrained by a broken system.
They are being directed to do things that is not teaching.
Sure.
their plates are so full, it's ridiculous. It's the same corollary with a lot of other professions, but I really feel for the teachers because they're dealing with our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And God bless them to
Yes,
still be
absolutely.
willing to go in to the bowels of the system and to fight for our kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Truly, truly blessed and truly dedicated people. So, yes, we want to reward them. So
Good.
hopefully we'll be able to do that.
Good. Well, Adriana,
Yep.
you got the main answer right that I always ask school board members. You know, I think we've seen pretty clearly that you are of the conservative mindset.
I am.
I did notice how she threw in a little bit there about things that she's heard on the Patriot Enclave to let me know.
She's
that
very talented.
She's a member of the
Very
tribe,
talented.
so that's always good news. Any other? What other? Just quick. How can people learn more about your campaign? That kind of thing, real quick.
Let me say about the teachers. I think that's one area that I would really like to work on, collaborating with the teachers. I think they are our biggest asset in our schools, and I don't think they're fully utilized. I think they have so much insight, so much experience to provide. And me and my running mate, Sam Young, we have been talking to teachers, sitting down with teachers and meeting with them. And one thing they say is that they just don't feel like their voice will be heard if they do speak up. So that's one thing I do want to bring to the school board. I want more collaboration. I want anonymous surveys sent out to them. I want their input because I think they are the key to fixing a lot of parts of our schools, to just improve them and make them better. To find out more about me, you can find me at voteadrianakuhn.com. I have a website there. Also on Facebook, I'm Adriana Kuhn for Francis Howell School Board. You can find me on Facebook also.
You know, Brian.
And Kuhn is spelled Kuhn.
Kuhn, vote Kuhn.
You know, earlier, Brian, you were referring to the 12 people that didn't show up for the meeting. I see some of that same corollary going over to school board members. They get elected, and then they just kind of sit back. I can say that this board at Francis Howell is definitely engaged and dedicated to doing the right thing. And I know that I'm really anxious for Adriana and Sam both to be a part of it. I think we will hit it out of the park
We will.
when the two of them.
I